K-pop spin-offs usually scream for clout. Flashy teasers, viral tactics, hysterical hype cycles built to force obsession before a single note even hits. But the real ones don't need the volume. They slide in silently, bearing the scars of a decade in a brutal game that demands total flawlessness and kills you for blinking. MiSaMo wasn't some random, fun side quest. They rose from the ashes of intense scrutiny, crushing pressure, and sheer survival instinct inside the most ruthless machine running the entire global pop culture scene today. To really feel the weight, go back to Twice's rookie era, where the order was brutal and roles were locked down tight. Who got center, the lines, the screen time, it was all rationed with savage, cold precision. Mina, Sana, and Momo were gears in the system, not stars leading it. Crucial pieces, sure, but rarely the priority. Their worth was in being steady, not stealing the show. In a game addicted to fast fame, they mastered the dark art of staying alive in the shade without ever really shattering. But real survival always leaves a scar. Years of staying in the lane meant eating criticism in total silence, executing perfect dance moves with zero praise, smiling through deep cultural disconnects, carrying the heavy hopes of two nations that often pulled apart. While Twice rose as a national icon, the J-line quietly learned to endure being undervalued without ever losing their edge. This is where the true story starts, not with the fame, but with the hidden pressure that never shows on stage. In K-pop, a long career is never an accident. It's built on patience, silence, and knowing when to bite your tongue. MiSaMo wasn't formed to ride the wave. It happened because 3 idols lasted long enough to earn the right to use their real voice. Once you realize that, their launch stops looking like a bonus track and starts looking like the fate they were building towards. If you want to see how pressure molds a star before it shatters them, stick with me. Hit that sub button, follow along, and let's dive deep into this. As Twice blew up, the pressure to stay in boxes that didn't fit anymore skyrocketed. K-pop fame doesn't ease the burden, it just hones the blade. Every tiny move is tracked, every flaw gets zoomed in on. For Mina, Sana, and Momo, the era after the breakout wasn't a party, it was a survival mission under a lens that never once blinked, defining them not by the wins, but by how they handled the heat. Momo faced a brutal, cruel war. Her status as a top-tier dancer was weaponized, stripping her down to just a body that moves. The story they spun was vicious. All skill, no soul, flashy but not a real artist. In a scene that hates uneven stats, she absorbed every bit of hate that trailed her from the stage to the streets, noise that dared to question her seat at the table, even though she was the one keeping the performance elite. Sana faced a different beast, pressure born of blood, not talent. A single harmless post for her hometown ignited a firestorm overseas, proving how fast idols get drafted into conflicts they didn't start. She carried the weight of diplomacy and silence, forced to walk a tightrope between nations without slipping, even as the earth shook under her feet. The price of being the bridge between worlds is that you often have to erase your own feelings just to keep the connection alive. For Mina, the fight turned inward. The stage, usually her sanctuary of grace, turned into a nightmare of anxiety so deep it ripped her away from the life she made. Her absence wasn't just a sick day, it was a stark sign of how fragile peace is in a game that demands you never leave. When she came back, shielded by her sisters on stage, it revealed the silent secret behind the glam. Resilience in K-pop isn't about standing alone, it's about who holds you up. This hell didn't crack the J-line, it forged them into steel, not with noise or drama, but deep inside. They mastered patience, faith, and the long game. Without knowing it, they were pouring the concrete foundation for a future that was impossible until they walked through this fire alive. By the time Twice entered its veteran era, the dynamic had shifted. Success cemented their spot, but security in K-pop brings a subtler, creepier tension. When you're untouchable, the problem isn't staying alive, it's evolving without collapsing under your own massive shadow. For years, Twice was synonymous with bright, manic energy and the team-first motto. That code was too successful to break, but it left little space for the members to show their hidden depth. As the members grew up, the game changed around them. Fans got older, tastes changed, people stopped wanting just sugar, they wanted substance. And right here was the crack in the armor. How do you serve maturity without killing the classic image that made you icons? How do you let artists evolve when the brand they carry has been bolted down so tight for years? The fix wasn't a fight. It was a split. Not breaking up, but branching out. A subunit became the safety valve to let off steam without blowing up the main engine. For Mina, Sana, and Momo, the clock was key. They'd already shown steel discipline, blind loyalty, and grit. They weren't begging for a hall pass. They had simply earned the keys to the safe. Behind the curtain, this move weighed heavier than any Billboard number. It proved Twice wasn't running on the fear of falling apart at the seams. Solo wanderings didn't threaten the group's life anymore. They made the whole thing bulletproof. The J-Line finally secured the room to live outside the crushing, heavy duty of fronting a massive multinational success story. This wasn't a chase for clout. It was a hunger. Years of biting their tongues built a pressure to scream that couldn't be silenced. MiSaMo didn't happen because the market begged for it. They happened because the foundation was finally solid enough to hold them. And the second that door cracked open, the path they took exposed just how far their actual soul was from the scripted image they'd been handed. When MiSaMo finally took the center, the vibe shift was visceral and instant. This wasn't just Twice 2, nor a lazy copy-paste job for guaranteed streams. The beat, the tempo, the aesthetic, it all screamed a deliberate rebellion. While Twice's Japan drops were built for mass, joyful stadium parties, MiSaMo turned the lights down low, aiming for mood, tension, and absolute ice-cold control. It was a gamble, sure, but a masterfully calculated one. K-pop usually thinks you gotta scream to be heard louder, faster, flashier. MiSaMo completely killed that noise. They were unshakably confident without trying too hard, alluring without forcing the issue. The dance used stillness just as much as movement, weaponizing control into quiet dominance. This wasn't a desperate claw for relevance. It was a masterclass in sophistication, forged in the fires of discipline. What made this move a historic game-changer wasn't just the beat, but the audience. MiSaMo refused to water down their essence to chase a wider net. They went full Japanese, zero translation, zero explanatory handholding. They totally inverted the K-pop export rulebook. This wasn't Korean pop dubbed for Japan. It was Japanese soul honed by brutal K-pop steel, reclaiming their specific cultural roots instead of dodging them. For Momo, this era quietly destroyed the haters. Songs that actually fit her tone changed the whole conversation about her voice. Mina's class, usually buried under frantic group dances, became the main attraction, not a side dish. Sana's womanhood bloomed, finally free from the forced, sugary, cute act. They didn't morph into new people, they just finally got the green light to be themselves. The reaction proved what was bubbling under the lid all along. MiSaMo didn't stun the crowd. They just confirmed a rumor everyone knew was true. That under the Twice brand lived artists who were way too big for the rigid boxes they were packed in. This wasn't a mutiny against the squad. It was proof that the waiting game, when met with the right moment, can rewrite the script without burning the legacy down. When MiSaMo finished their rise, the whole narrative had completely flipped. What started as a smart corporate move turned into a masterclass on how grit, silence, and faith beat flashy, empty hype every time. Their win wasn't painted with drama or infighting, 'cause there was none. Twice kept crushing it with a classic, joyful vibe, while MiSaMo owned a mature, sleek lane that was impossible to reach without shattering the main group's foundation. Both worlds could live because neither threatened the other. That balance is a rare sighting in K-pop. Usually, spin-offs show the cracks, not the muscle. MiSaMo did the exact opposite. They showed what happens when a team is solid enough to let the members grow up without fear. Their work wasn't noisy, thirsty, or built for cheap viral trends. It was deliberate. Every drop felt calculated, tight, and sure, reflecting pros who totally mastered their game and no longer needed to prove their value by screaming for attention. The real legacy here isn't about stats or ticket sales. MiSaMo totally rewrote the manual on growing up in a biz addicted to teens and now. They proved patience compounds like interest. That hate, when you survive it instead of fighting back, becomes armor. That years spent in the shadows don't vanish, they stack up into pure power when your time finally comes to take the throne. Their saga exposes the secret, heartbreak side of the idol dream. Not the glittering debuts or the trophy picks, but the silent endurance shared in the dark. Years spent hovering on the edge of the frame. The heavy burden of expectations. The emotional wounds that never make the final edit. MiSaMo did not escape that fate. They survived the pain and turned it into an allure that is now absolutely undeniable. And that is why this love story is essential. It is not just about success. It is a reminder that the most intense passion often burns after the coldest silence. If you crave more deep dives into the conflicts, the heartbreak, and the hidden power dynamics of this world, make sure to subscribe, like, and pour your heart out in the comments. This drama is not over. And the next episode? It is already waiting.